Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. My mom did not want a eulogy, so I decided that I'd like to have a frank discussion about dementia. She was diagnosed in June 2014, but as my husband and I learned more and more about dementia, there were symptoms before. And I wanted to bring this out because some of you probably already know this road, some of you may not. But we need to look at dementia as an illness like we do heart trouble, liver trouble, kidney trouble. The only difference is the problem is in the brain. It's not that people are bad. It's not that people are strange. There's a problem in the brain. Alzheimer's, there's a section, I don't know what section, but it actually shrinks. And I'll elaborate a little bit there. My mom's was vascular in nature. Basically, it was because she was old. And I say that respectfully. Her blood vessels were beginning to atrophy a little, and that kind of was what was causing her problem. One reason that I wanted to mention this, because a lot of times people have a stigma when it comes to mental illness and things like that because of lack of understanding and those kind of things. And I kind of hope that just a few of the comments that I make will maybe change that. I want to read a scripture first. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 8. If I ever learned the importance of those verses, it was during this time. Never argue, instead agree. Never reason, instead divert. Never shame, instead distract. Never lecture, instead reassure. Never say remember, instead reminisce. Never say I told you, instead repeat and regroup. Never say you can't, instead do what they can. Never command or demand, instead ask or model. Never condescend, instead encourage. Never force, instead reinforce. And lastly, be ready to forgive. Forgive them without reconciliation. A lot of times, particularly if you don't know, maybe they haven't been diagnosed, they may do things. And if you're easily offended, you could turn away. They may not remember they did it, and if you try to resolve it, they don't remember. You know what happened. There might have been people around. Forgive them. Forgive them. I have to say, the best examples I've seen of those verses that I read have been people at the City Behavioral Unit in Berea, Green Country Care Center, and Physician's Choice Hospice. They may be getting paid, but they cared for her. It's very difficult when you go to Laureate and they're trying to regulate the medication and you're expecting to bring your loved one home, and they tell you, you can't. That happened to us. We were going to bring her home. Her dementia wasn't that bad. We could have brought her home, but the mobility was at a point where I couldn't take care of her anymore. We knew that with dementia patients, the most important thing is for stability and consistency in their environment. That little teddy bear right there, that teddy bear was in her room at Laureate. And when they told us that we couldn't take care of her anymore, we asked for it. At least it was something, that she could connect to. We asked for it. And they sent it with her. 3 weeks later, she fell and broke her hip. And she was beginning to feel comfortable. She fell and broke her hip. And she went to the hospital, had partial hip replacement. And she was at the hospital for a few days. When she came back, she was a little disoriented and she was afraid. She because she had just left one place, went to a new place, went back to the hospital. All that happened in 3 weeks. And my husband remembered the teddy bear. So he grabbed it because she was saying she didn't want to stay, He grabbed the bear and handed it to her, and she had a place of familiarity, and she was fine. She was fine. Another thing, I've talked with some of you. My mom died peacefully. It was just like she went to sleep. We visited her that Wednesday, and the hospice people thought she had maybe another week or so. 90 minutes later, we got the call saying she was gone. When we returned, she literally looked the same, but she just wasn't breathing. She looked rested and peaceful. We were so grateful for everyone that had taken care of her for this past year or so. We're really grateful. And we decided that we were going to personally thank everybody that we could. When we go to different places, and we went back when the facility doctor came, and we went back to thank him. And the one thing that he said, and this is what I want to really get to, he said that dementia patients, they have regular visits from people. They tend not to have a lot of stress. They tend to be very relaxed, very comfortable. And I want to thank everyone here at Love Tabernacle, Donner, and different ones that visited my mom regularly while she was away. And they said that is probably why she was so calm all the time. One of the workers, I guess he wasn't able to be here. He was my favorite. He would wave at her and wink at her and all that kind of stuff. He would tell us everything that was going on when we would come to visit. And he told a story. I think I'll never forget it. In the section she was in, he told us a story. They rarely talk about bad days when they behave bad. They just don't. Well, this one day he decided, he came, I'll never forget it. There were probably about 40 or 50 people in that section. He came up to us and he said, Pam, everybody was going crazy. Everybody was acting up except her. She was sitting at her table, mindfully eating her food. He said, everybody. Yeah, we were in the eating area, and he said, everybody was acting up. The sad thing was, Mom was probably one of the few that got regular visits, we were told. And I just want You ought to be encouraged. They say that even if you have a loved one and they may not remember, visit them anyway. This is creating memories in a place, a stable place for them. Another thing I learned is I love to see people smiling when if I look at strangers, I'd love to see them smiling and, light in their eyes and things like that. At times I would tend to see people that weren't smiling, and wonder if they were mean, And there was someone at our church that I really didn't know. And as I tell you, you'll know who I'm talking about, I think. When I came to the church, I wasn't real, gregarious. I was still, getting used to people and everything. And this fellow had been there, I don't know how long, that I don't know, but him and his wife were attending when I was there. And I would see him, walk around and everything, but he just had this blank look on his face. He would, if you asked him, how you doing, he said he was fine, or he'd say hello, but he just had this blank look on his face. And so I wasn't sure, like I said, I really didn't know him. Well, I guess about a year or so later, he was diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's. And he died not too long ago. And his wife posted pictures of him on Facebook. I almost cried because he probably was at the early stage of dementia and I didn't know. He was so lovely. I looked at his pictures and it reminded me of my husband. The sweetest little face, the most beautiful smile. And I thought, I never had a chance to see it because it was beginning. I learned I will never look at somebody and think like I did again. Never, never, never. There's so many versions of dementia. You don't know how it's going to manifest. There are dozens of them. Vascular is one thing, depending on the section of the brain, it can manifest in just a myriad of ways. I will never, never do that again. Never. I want to end with a story that I saw on CNN. Many of you, particularly the older ones, will remember the singer Glenn Campbell. He was very famous in the 60s and 70s. He had a TV show. I watched the program as a girl. I was watching a lot of TV back then. And I watched anything that my parents let me watch. In 2011, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he decided that he wanted to do a goodbye tour until it got to the point where he couldn't sing or anything like that. They did a documentary a few months back, I don't remember the name of it, where it chronicled his journey, even doctor's visits, x-rays, the whole bit. And they showed a section of his brain that was shrinking. That did not really happen with my mom. It was just mainly the blood vessels around the brain that was causing problems. And he did a song that he wanted to sing to his family while he still had his memory, to tell them how he felt about him and to tell them what would happen as the disease progressed. What was so telling about that documentary was you saw the disease progressing. He was getting meaner, wasn't remembering. It was just really sad. And at this point, he doesn't remember he ever sang or played or anything. It's just, Mom never got that way, thankfully. She had her memory for the most part. She would just revert back to her childhood, talking about an Aunt Minnie, her Aunt Minnie, think about it, her Aunt Minnie. So I wanted to end this by playing the song, and the title of the song is, I'm Not Going to Miss You. love people. I would say all the time, you never know what people are going through. I really understand now. You may not know what people are going through. They may not even know. When it comes to something like this, they may not even know. I won't, but I think of conversations with my mom. Now I know. She probably was dealing with things years before, and we didn't know. Be gracious to people. Do what you can. Because they may be walking through something that they don't even know. Love them. Don't. Just love them. Love them.